The morning sun painted the mountain village of Songrim in golden light. Lena stepped out of her small workshop, wiping grease from her hands with an old cloth. The air smelled of fresh bread from the bakery and the sweet scent of cherry blossoms that lined the village streets. She could hear her grandfather Park stall humming an old song as he tended to his vegetable garden behind their house. Na was 24 years old and had lived her entire life in this peaceful valley. The village had only 850 people, but everyone knew each other like family. She spent her days fixing broken farm equipment, repairing old radios, and dreaming about the engineering college in Seoul. Her workshop was filled with mechanical parts, old books about engines, and half-finished inventions that made the village elders shake their heads and smile. "Na, breakfast is ready," called her younger brother Kim Woo from their small house. At 16, Woo was already taller than Na, with kind eyes and quick hands that helped her in the workshop. He wanted to become a teacher and often read books. Late into the night, by candlelight, Na walked through the village center, greeting the shopkeepers who were opening their stores for the day. Mrs. Song was arranging flowers outside her small market. Mr. Choi was setting up his noodle stand, steam from his cooking pot rising into the cool morning air. Children ran between the houses, their laughter echoing off the mountain walls that surrounded their home. This was her world, small, simple, and perfect in its own way. Na sat down at the wooden table where Grandfather Dahl had already placed 3 bowls of rice and soup. The old man had raised Na and Woo after their parents died in a car accident 10 years ago. His weathered hands showed the work of a lifetime, but his eyes still sparkled with warmth and wisdom. "The Kim family's tractor broke down again," Woo said, spooning soup into his mouth. Mrs. Kim asked if he could look at it today. Na nodded. "It is probably the same problem as last month. The fuel line gets clogged because they use old gasoline." Grandfather Dahl smiled. "You have good hands for fixing things, Na, just like your father." After breakfast, Na walked to the Kim farm at the edge of the village. The tractor sat silent in the field, its red paint faded by years of sun and rain. Na opened the hood and began her work, checking each part with careful attention. The engine was old but well built. With the right care, it could run for many more years. As she worked, Na heard a sound that made her stop and look up. It was a low humming, like the buzz of angry bees, but deeper and louder. The sound seemed to come from the sky itself. Other villagers had noticed it too. People stepped out of their houses and shops, looking up at the clear blue morning sky with confused expressions. The humming grew louder, making the windows in nearby houses shake slightly. "What is that noise?" asked Farmer Kim, walking over to where Na stood by his tractor. Na wiped her hands and stared at the sky. She had read about airplanes in her engineering books, but this sound was different, bigger, more powerful. The humming became a roar that seemed to press down on the village like a heavy blanket. Then she saw them. Dark shapes appeared in the sky, moving too fast and too smoothly to be any aircraft she knew about. They were large, maybe the size of buildings, with strange curves and angles that hurt to look at. The ships, for that was what they had to be, moved without making the choppy sounds that helicopters made. They glided through the air like fish, swimming through water. Fear crept up Na's spine like ice water. More villagers came outside, pointing at the sky and talking in worried voices. Children pressed close to their parents. Even the village dogs had stopped barking and were now hiding under porches and behind houses. The strange ships slowed down and began to hover over Songgrim village. Kay could see details now that made her stomach twist with terror. The ships had no windows that she could see, but they had what looked like weapons. Long, dark tubes pointed down at the village like the fingers of some giant metal hand. "Everyone needs to get inside," Na called out. But her voice sounded small and weak under the roar of the alien engines. The ships hung in the air for what felt like forever, but was probably only a few minutes. Then, without any warning, they began to fire. The first blast hit the village center. Mrs. Song's flower shop disappeared in a ball of bright fire. The explosion was so loud that Na felt it in her bones. The ground shook, and she fell to her knees next to the broken tractor. More blasts followed. Mr. Choi's noodle stand exploded into splinters. The small school where Wu had learned to read became a smoking hole in the ground. House after house vanished in flashes of terrible light. Na ran toward her home, screaming for her grandfather and brother. The air filled with smoke and dust. Pieces of burning wood and metal fell from the sky like deadly rain. She could hear people crying and calling for help, but their voices were drowned out by the constant thunder of the attack. A blast hit right in front of her, throwing Na backward into an open storm drain. The concrete pipe was just big enough for her to crawl into, and she pulled herself deeper as the world exploded above her. The drain led to an old maintenance tunnel under her workshop, a place she had played in as a child. For hours, Na huddled in the dark tunnel while the attack continued. Concrete walls shook with each explosion. Dust and small rocks fell on her head. She pressed her hands to her ears, but she could still hear the terrible sounds of her village dying. Finally, the noise stopped. The alien ships moved away, their humming growing quieter until it disappeared completely. We hid in the tunnel, too afraid to move, until she could not hear anything except the crackle of fires burning above when she finally climbed out of the tunnel. Songram village was gone. Where her home had stood, there was only a smoking crater in the earth. The workshop, the house, the garden where Grandfather Doll had grown vegetables, all of it was ash and broken stone. Now walked through what had been the village center, but nothing looked familiar anymore. She found no survivors. 847 people had lived in Songram that morning. Stood alone among the ruins, the only person left alive in a place that had once been filled with laughter and life. She knelt in the ashes where her home had been and picked up a piece of burned metal. It had been part of a picture frame that held a photo of her family. Now it was just twisted black steel, but she held it tight in her hand until it cut her palm. The blood dripped onto the ash. Na looked up at the empty sky and made a promise. That would change everything. They took everything from me, she whispered to the smoke and ruins. I will take everything from them. 3 weeks after the attack, Na walked through the busy streets of Seoul. The capital city was like another world compared to her quiet mountain village. Tall buildings reached toward the sky. Cars filled the roads with noise and smoke, and millions of people moved around her like a river of strangers. Na carried everything she owned in a small backpack. She had no money, no family, and no home. But she had something more dangerous than any of those things. She had a plan. The Global Defense Initiative building stood in the center of the city like a giant steel mountain. Nay had read about GDI in old newspapers she found in the ruins of Songram. They were Earth's military organization, formed after the first alien ships had been spotted near Mars 5 years ago. Most people thought the aliens would never come to Earth. Most people had been wrong. Na walked up to the front entrance where 2 guards in green uniforms stood watching everyone who passed by. Her clothes were dirty from weeks of walking and sleeping outside. Her face was thin from eating very little food. She knew she looked like a homeless person, not someone who belonged in a military building. Want to join the weapons program? Na told the first guard. The man looked her up and down and laughed. You need to finish high school first, kid. Come back in a few years. Finished high school when I was 15, Na said. I have been studying engineering on my own since then. Test me. The guard stopped laughing when he saw the look in Na's eyes. There was something cold and hard there that made him take a step back. "Wait here," he said, and walked inside the building. An hour later, a woman in a military uniform came outside. She was tall and strong-looking, with short black hair and sharp eyes that seemed to see everything. "I am Colonel Beijin," she said. "The guard says you want to join our program." "Yes," Na replied. "How old are you?" 24. "Where did you go to school?" "Songbrim Village," Na said. "But there is no school there anymore. The aliens destroyed it." Colonel Bay looked at Na more carefully. "Songbrim, I read the reports. There were no survivors." "One survivor," Na said quietly. The colonel studied Na's face for a long moment. Then she nodded toward the building. "Come with me. We will see what you know." The test room was white and clean, with a large table covered in broken machine parts. Colonel Bay pointed to the pieces of metal and wire. "This is part of a communication device we took from an alien ship that crashed last month. Our best engineers cannot figure out how it works. Show me what you see." Na sat down at the table and picked up the largest piece. It was smooth and warm to the touch, made from metal that felt lighter than steel, but stronger than anything she had ever seen. Strange symbols were carved along one side, K, and thin wires ran through the metal-like veins in a leaf. She turned the piece over in her hands, feeling the weight and balance. Then she began to separate the other parts, laying them out in rows, according to size and shape. Her fingers moved quickly and surely, the same way they had when she fixed tractors and radios in her village. "The power source is here," Na said, pointing to a small crystal that glowed with soft blue light. "These wires carry information, not electricity. The symbols are not writing. They are a map of connections." She began putting the pieces back together, but not the way they had been before. Instead, she rearranged them based on what made sense to her engineer's mind. The crystal began to glow brighter. Then the device made a soft humming sound. Colonel Bay leaned forward. "Our people have been working on that for 3 weeks. Your people think like humans," Na said. "This was built by aliens. You have to think differently, and you can think like an alien." Nay looked up at the colonel with eyes that held too much pain for someone so young. "I have good reason to understand them." That afternoon, Na signed papers that made her a student in the GDI Advanced Weapons Program. She was given a small room in the military dormitory, 3 meals a day, access to the largest library of technical books she had ever seen. For the first time since the attack, she smiled. Her classes were harder than anything she had ever imagined. She studied physics, chemistry, computer programming, and alien biology. She learned about weapons that could destroy buildings and defenses that could stop bullets in midair. Her teachers were amazed at how quickly she understood everything they taught her. But Na was not the only student who had lost everything to the aliens. On her 3rd week at GDI, she met Song Min in the cafeteria. He was a pilot trainee, too, years older than Na, with steady hands and sad eyes that reminded her of her brother, Wu. "You are the girl who fixed the alien communicator," Min said, sitting down at her table with his lunch tray. "News travels fast here," Na replied. "My parents lived in a farming town called Huaqian," Min continued. "The aliens attacked it the same day they hit your village. I was away at pilot school. When I came home, there was nothing left but holes in the ground." Na nodded. She understood that kind of pain. "Why did you become a pilot?" she asked. "Because I want to fly up there and fight them," Min said, pointing toward the ceiling. "What about you? Why weapons?" Na thought for a moment before answering. "Because I want to build something that can hurt them the way they hurt us." Min smiled, but it was not a happy smile. "We make a good team then. I can deliver your weapons to their ships." Over the months that followed, Na and Min became close friends. They studied together, ate together, and shared their dreams of revenge against the aliens who had destroyed their families. Men taught Na about flying and navigation. Na taught men about engineering and alien technology. Colonel Bay watched Na's progress with growing concern. The young woman was brilliant, perhaps the smartest student GD I had ever seen. But there was something dangerous about her focus. She never laughed, never relaxed, never seemed to think about anything except learning how to kill aliens. "You are pushing yourself too hard," the colonel told Na one day after she had spent 18 hours straight in the laboratory. "Not hard." "Enough," Na replied, not looking up from the alien weapon she was studying. "They are still alive out there. They are still destroying villages. Revenge will not bring your family back." Na finally looked up, and Colonel Bay saw something in her eyes that made her take a step backward. "No," Na said quietly, "but it will make sure they cannot destroy any more families." Late at night, when the other students were sleeping, Na worked alone in her room. She drew pictures and wrote equations, filling notebook after notebook with designs for weapons that did not exist yet. She studied reports of alien attacks, looking for patterns and weaknesses. The aliens called themselves the Vorlok Empire. They had ships bigger than cities and weapons that could crack planets. They had conquered dozens of worlds across the galaxy, turning entire species into slaves or simply wiping them out completely. But Na found something interesting in the reports. The Vorlok always attacked primitive worlds first. T had never faced organized resistance from a species with advanced technology. They were bullies who only picked on weaker opponents. That gave her an idea. 1 year after arriving in Seoul, Na requested a meeting with Colonel Bay. She walked into the colonel's office carrying a thick folder full of papers covered in calculations and diagrams. "Want to design a new kind of weapon," Na said, placing the folder on the desk. Colonel Bay opened the folder and looked at the first page. Her eyes grew wide as she read. "This is impossible. The energy requirements alone would need a power source bigger than our largest reactor." "Not impossible," Na corrected, "just very difficult." "What do you call this weapon?" Na stood straight and looked directly into the colonel's eyes. "The Songgrim Protocol. Okay. And it will not just destroy their ships, it will destroy their entire world." 5 years had passed since IA first walked into the GDI building. She was no longer the thin, desperate girl who had crawled from the ruins of Songgrim village. Now she was Dr. Lee Na, the youngest weapons specialist in Earth's defense forces, and the leading expert on alien technology. Her laboratory was hidden deep underground, 3 levels below the main GDI building. The walls were lined with pieces of captured Vorlok equipment, broken weapons, damaged ship parts, and strange devices that hummed with alien energy filled every corner of the room. He had studied each piece for months, learning how the Vorlok built their tools of war. Today was special. After 5 years of planning, designing, and building, her masterpiece was finally ready. "Are you sure this will work?" asked Song Min, standing beside a large object covered by a white sheet. Min was now a captain and leader of Phoenix Squadron, a secret team of pilots who had all lost family members to Vorlok attacks. "It will work," Na said with complete confidence. She pulled away the sheet, revealing her creation, the Songgrim Protocol. The device looked like a silver egg, the size of a small car. Its surface was covered in the same strange patterns that Na had seen on Vorlok technology, but arranged in ways that no alien had ever imagined. Blue light pulsed slowly through crystal, veins that ran across the metal shell. "This is quantum tunneling technology," Na explained, running her hand along the device's smooth surface. "It can pass through any barrier, any shield, any defense. When it reaches the core of a planet, it will explode with the power of a dying star." Behind Min stood the other members of Phoenix Squadron. There was Choi Hannah, a demolitions expert whose entire city had been 5 years had passed since Ine first walked into the GDI building. She was no longer the thin, desperate girl who had crawled from the ruins of Songrim village. Now she was Dr. Lina, the youngest weapons specialist in Earth's defense forces and the leading expert on alien technology. Her laboratory was hidden deep underground, 3 levels below the main GDI building. The walls were lined with pieces of captured Vorlok equipment, broken weapons, damaged ship parts, and strange devices that hummed with alien energy filled every corner of the room. He had studied each piece for months, learning how the Vorlok built their tools of war. Today was special. After 5 years of planning, designing, and building, her masterpiece was finally ready. "Are you sure this will work?" asked Song Min, standing beside a large object covered by a white sheet. Min was now a captain and leader of Phoenix Squadron, a secret team of pilots who had all lost family members to Vorlok attacks. "It will work," Na said with complete confidence. She pulled away the sheet, revealing her creation, the Songrim Protocol. The device looked like a silver egg, the size of a small car. Its surface was covered in the same strange patterns that Na had seen on Vorlok technology, but arranged in ways that no alien had ever imagined. Blue light pulsed slowly through crystal, veins that ran across the metal shell. "This is quantum tunneling technology," Na explained, running her hand along the device's smooth surface. "It can pass through any barrier, any shield, any defense. When it reaches the core of a planet, it will explode with the power of a dying star." Behind Min stood the other members of Phoenix Squadron. There was Choi Hanna, a demolitions expert whose entire city had been burned by Vorlok raiders. Her small hands were skilled at building bombs, but her heart was filled with the same cold anger that drove Na. Next to Hanna was Yoon Tae, a computer specialist who could make any machine do things its builders never intended. His parents had been scientists studying peaceful contact with aliens. The Vorlok had killed them for their research. These 4 people were all that remained of dozens of families destroyed by alien attacks. They had found each other in their shared pain, and now they were ready to share their revenge. "The ship is ready too," Min said, gesturing toward the far end of the laboratory. Na walked over to look at her other creation. Stealth ship was long and thin, painted black as empty space. Its hull was made from human steel wrapped around salvaged Vorlok armor plating. The engines used Earth technology, but the power systems were based on alien designs that Na had improved and modified. She had named the ship Songrum's Revenge. "It can fly faster than any Vorlok patrol ship," Na said with pride. "Stealth systems will hide us from their sensors, and the hull is strong enough to survive flying through a planet's atmosphere." "What about getting home?" asked Hannah quietly. Now was silent for a long moment. They all knew the answer. The mission to Corvith Prime, the Vorlok homeworld, was a one-way trip. Even if they succeeded in delivering the quantum bomb, they would never return to Earth. "Some things are more important than going home," Na finally said. That evening, Na requested a meeting with the GDI High Command. She walked into the conference room, where 20 generals and admirals sat around a large table. These were the most powerful military leaders on Earth, and they did not look happy. "Dr. Lee," said General Park, the head of GDI, "Lee have read your mission proposal. The answer is no. This is our chance to end the war before it really begins." Na replied calmly. "The Vorlok are planning a major attack on Earth. Our intelligence confirms they are gathering a fleet of over 500 ships. That is exactly why we need you here," said Admiral Kim. "Your weapons and your knowledge are too valuable to risk on a suicide mission. One bomb delivered to the right place can save millions of lives," Na argued. "The Vorlok military depends on orders from their homeworld. Without Corvith Prime, their empire will collapse. Even if your plan works, you would be committing genocide, said Colonel Bay, who had been Na's first supporter, but now looked worried. An entire planet of people would die. Na's eyes grew hard and cold. They committed genocide first. Stakum village, Wakian town, 47 other human settlements. How many alien worlds have they destroyed completely? How many species have they wiped out? That does not make it right, Colonel Bay replied. Right and wrong do not matter anymore, Na said quietly. Only survival matters. Either we destroy them or they destroy us. There is no middle choice. The generals talked among themselves in low voices. Finally, General Park stood up. The mission is too dangerous. Cannot authorize it. You remain on Earth and continue your research. Nan nodded politely and left the meeting room. But she had expected this answer. The military leaders were good people who still believed wars could be fought with honor and mercy. Ka had learned in the ashes of her village that honor was a luxury Earth could not afford. That night, Phoenix Squadron gathered in the underground laboratory. Na looked at each of her team members, seeing her own determination reflected in their faces. Command said no, she told them. Then we go without permission, Min said immediately. This makes us criminals, Hannah pointed out. We will be stealing military equipment and disobeying direct orders. We were criminals the moment we decided to survive, Tay replied. The Vorlok made us criminals when they murdered our families. Na walked over to a computer terminal and began typing commands. I am uploading all of our research data to the ship's computer. Even if we fail, future generations will know what we tried to do. We're not going to fail, Min said with certainty. Over the next 3 days, Phoenix Squadron secretly prepared for their mission. They loaded the quantum bomb into Songrum's Revenge and filled the ship's storage areas with supplies. For the long journey to Vorlok space, Na made final adjustments to the ship's systems while her team practiced their roles. On the last night, Na sat alone in her small room, writing letters she would never send. One letter was to Grandfather Dao and Brother Wu, even though they were long dead. She told them about everything she had learned and everything she planned to do. Another letter was to Colonel Bay, thanking her for the chance to become something more than a village girl with broken dreams. The final letter was to Earth itself, to all the people who would never know what Phoenix Squadron had sacrificed for them. We go, not as Earth's representatives, she wrote, but as ghosts seeking justice. If we succeed, remember that sometimes one person's grief can move mountains and crack worlds. The next morning, before the sun rose over Seoul, Phoenix Squadron walked through the underground tunnels to their hidden ship. The laboratory was empty and silent, but the walls still hummed with alien energy from the devices had studied for so many years. Min started the engines while Hannah and Tay checked the weapon systems. Na sat in the pilot seat next to Min and looked at the screen showing Earth's surface far above them, ready for launch. Min reported. Na thought about her village, about the laughter of children and the smell of cherry blossoms. She thought about all the villages on all the worlds that the Vorlok had destroyed. Then she thought about the fire that would soon burn across their homeworld. Launch, she commanded. Songrum's Revenge shot up through the hidden tunnel and into the dark sky above Earth. Within minutes, Abea, they had entered hyperspace and begun the long journey toward the heart of the Vorlok Empire. Behind them, alarm bells were ringing in the GDI building as security discovered the empty laboratory and the missing ship. But Phoenix Squadron was already too far away to be stopped. Na watched the stars, blurred past the ship's windows, and spoke quietly to herself. We are coming for you. The journey through hyperspace to Vorlok territory took 12 days. For the first week, Songrum's Revenge traveled through empty regions of space where no ships had been seen for centuries. I spent her time checking and rechecking every system on the ship, making sure nothing could go wrong. when they needed it most. On the 8th day, they encountered their first Vorlok patrol. 3 ships coming toward us, men reported from the pilot's seat. They are moving fast. Na looked at the screen showing the approaching vessels. Each Vorlok ship was twice the size of their stolen craft, with thick armor plating and weapons that could tear through steel like paper. Under normal circumstances, one patrol ship could destroy 50 human vessels without taking damage. Stealth systems online, Tay announced from his computer station. We should be invisible to their sensors. But Na knew that stealth technology was not perfect. If the Vorlok ships came too close, they would detect the heat from their engines, or the slight distortion their ship caused in space. The patrol ships moved in formation, searching the area with powerful scanning beams. One ship passed so close that Na could see details on its hull through their viewing window. Strange symbols were painted along the side, probably marking which battles the ship had fought. "Hey, they are scanning for Earth ships," Hannah whispered, watching the enemy vessels on her weapons display. "Someone told them we were coming." Na felt her stomach tighten with worry. Had I sent a message warning the Vorlok about their mission? Or had the aliens simply increased their patrols because they expected Earth to retaliate for the village attacks? The Vorlok ships continued their search for another hour before finally moving away. Phoenix Squadron waited in tense silence until the enemy vessels disappeared from their sensors. "That was too close," Min said, wiping sweat from his forehead. "It will get worse," Na replied. "We are entering the outer regions of their empire. There will be more patrols." She was right. Over the next 4 days, they encountered 17 more Vorlok ships. Each time they managed to avoid detection, but the stress was wearing on everyone. Te barely slept, constantly monitoring the stealth systems. Hannah cleaned her weapons over and over, preparing for the fight she knew was coming. On the 12th day, they reached the edge of the Corvette system. Na stared at the tactical display, showing what lay ahead of them. The Vorlok homeworld was surrounded by the largest fleet she had ever seen. Hundreds of warships moved in careful patterns around the planet. Massive space stations hung in orbit like metal moons, each one bristling with enough weapons to destroy Earth's entire military. But what shocked Na the most was not the Vorlok defenses. It was the wreckage. Floating between the warships and stations were the broken remains of dozens of alien vessels. These were not Vorlok ships. They were the spacecraft of other species, other civilizations that had tried to fight the Empire and failed. Na could see the twisted metal of ships built by races she had never heard of, all of them destroyed and left as warnings to anyone who dared challenge Vorlok power. "How many worlds have they conquered?" Hannah asked quietly. "The intelligence reports say at least 50, Na answered. "But looking at this, I think the real number is much higher." Tay was studying his sensor readings with growing alarm. The planet itself has a defense shield. 3 orbital generators are powering it. Even our quantum bomb cannot penetrate that barrier. Na nodded grimly. She had expected this problem. "We need to disable the shield generators first." "That means flying close enough to attack them." "That is suicide," Min said. "Those generators are protected by entire fleets." "No," Na corrected him. "Flying here was suicide. Attacking the generators is just the next step." She pulled up detailed scans of the orbital defenses on her screen. Each shield generator was the size of a small city, heavily armored and surrounded by weapon platforms. Mana had spent 5 years studying Vorlok technology. She knew their weaknesses. "Vorlok ships are powerful but slow," she explained to her team. "Their weapons can destroy anything, but they need time to aim. Their computers follow predictable patterns because they always fight the same way." "What are you thinking?" Min asked. "I am thinking that they have never fought humans before. They do not know how we move, how we think, how we fight when we have nothing to lose." Na began plotting an attack route on the navigation computer. It was a complex path that would take them between the patrol ships, around the weapon platforms, and straight toward the nearest shield generator. "This plan is crazy," Hannah said, studying the route. "We will be outnumbered 1,000 to 1. "Good," Na replied with a cold smile. "That means they will underestimate us." The attack began at dawn Corvath's time. Songram's Revenge dropped out of hyperspace directly above the planet's north pole, where the Vorlok had fewer ships on patrol. Men immediately pushed the engines to maximum power, sending their ship racing toward the orbital defenses. The first Vorlok patrol to notice them was a group of 5 heavy cruisers. The alien ships turned to pursue, their massive weapons charging up to fire. But Na had predicted this. She activated a device she had built into their ship's hull. Something no Vorlok had ever seen before. The device created a false sensor reading, making it look like there were dozens of human ships instead of just one. The Vorlok cruisers began firing at empty space while Songram's Revenge flew past them untouched. "Impossible," muttered the Vorlok fleet commander on the radio channel that Tay was monitoring. "How are there so many enemy ships?" More Vorlok vessels joined the chase, but Na was ready for them too. She had programmed their ship to change direction in ways that Vorlok computers could not predict. Their ship danced between laser beams and missile explosions, moving like a leaf caught in a windstorm. The first shield generator grew larger on their screen. It was a massive structure of dark metal and glowing crystals, beautiful and terrible. At the same time, weapon platforms around the generator began firing at their approaching ship. "Hannah, you're up." Na called. Hannah activated the weapon systems she had spent months preparing. Instead of trying to destroy the heavily armored generator, she targeted the power cables that connected it to the planet below. Her missiles struck with perfect accuracy, severing the energy links one by one. The shield generator went dark. 1/3 of the planet's protection was gone, but their success came at a cost. A Vorlok missile had clipped their ship's wing, damaging the engines. Alarms were ringing throughout the cockpit. "We are losing power," men reported. "I can reach the second generator, but after that, ... double quotes, Na understood. They might be able to disable the second shield generator, but they would not survive to attack the third one. The mission would fail unless someone stayed behind to make sure it succeeded." Men looked at Na with eyes that held 5 years of friendship and shared pain. "The third generator is on the far side of the planet. If I take a fighter pod and attack it directly." Men, "No," Na said immediately. "Someone has to do it," Men replied calmly, "and I am the best pilot we have." Before anyone could stop him, Men was running toward the ship's small fighter bay. Na chased after him, but he was already climbing into the single-seat attack craft they had brought for emergencies. "Tell them back on Earth that we did this for every village they burned," Men said over the radio as his fighter launched from their ship. Nay watched on her screen as Men's tiny craft raced toward the third generator. Dozens of Vorlok ships moved to intercept him, their weapons lighting up space with deadly fire. But Men flew like a man who no longer cared about living, only about completing his mission. His fighter reached the generator just as enemy fire tore through its hull. The explosion was so bright that it lit up the entire night side of the planet below. The third generator went silent. Corvath Prime's shields were down. Na stared at the empty space where her friend had been, feeling tears run down her face for the first time since Songrim Village had burned. But there was no time to mourn. The quantum bomb was ready, and the planet's core was calling to her. "Take us down," she ordered. Songrim's Revenge turned toward the planet's surface and began its final dive into the heart of the Vorlok Empire. Songrim's Revenge plunged through the atmosphere of Corvath Prime like a falling star. The planet's sky was dark red, filled with thick clouds that smelled of metal and burned chemicals. Through breaks in the clouds, Na could see the surface of the Vorlog homeworld for the first time. It was a nightmare made real. Massive cities of black metal stretched across continents, connected by highways that glowed with alien energy. Factory complexes, the size of mountain ranges, pumped smoke into the red sky. But most terrible of all were the monuments scattered across the landscape. These were not statues of Vorlog heroes. They were made from the bones and ships of conquered species. Na could see the twisted remains of spacecraft from dozens of different civilizations, melted together into twisted sculptures that celebrated the Empire's victories. Each monument represented an entire world that no longer existed. Those monsters, Hannah whispered, staring at the horrible display through the ship's viewing window. Now you understand why this has to end, Na replied, her voice hard as steel. Their ship shook violently as Vorlog ground defenses opened fire. Laser beams and missiles filled the air around them, trying to bring down the small human craft before it could reach its target. But Songrim's revenge had been built for this moment. Its hull was designed to survive atmospheric entry under enemy fire. Where is the drilling site? Tski called from his station, his fingers flying over the computer controls. Na checked her navigation display. They needed to reach a specific location on the planet's surface, a place where the crust was thin enough for their quantum bomb to penetrate to the core. According to her calculations, the spot was in the center of the largest Vorlog city. There, she said, pointing to a massive complex of towers and factories that stretched beyond the horizon. The capital city of Zorthok, population 800 million. The number hit Na like a physical blow. 800 million living beings would die when the quantum bomb exploded. That was almost 1,000 times more people than had lived in Songram village. For a moment, doubt crept into her mind. Was she about to become something worse than the aliens who had destroyed her home? Then she remembered the monuments made from alien bones. She remembered the wreckage of 50 conquered worlds floating in space around this planet. She remembered her grandfather's garden and her brother's laugh, the smell of cherry blossoms that would never bloom again. Target confirmed, Na said. Take us down. Men's sacrifice had damaged their ship more than Na had first realized. The engines were failing. The hull was cracked in 3 places, and half their systems were offline. Tay and Hannah worked frantically to keep them flying just a little longer. Landing in 60 seconds, Min's voice came through the ship's speakers. For a moment, Na thought her dead friend was somehow still with them. Then she realized that Tay had programmed the ship's computer to use Min's voice recordings for navigation announcements, even in death. Min was still their pilot. Vorlog fighter aircraft swarmed around them like angry wasps, firing everything they had at the small human ship. But they were too late. Songrim's revenge crashed into the center of Zorthok City with the force of a small meteor, carving a path of destruction through alien buildings and streets. The ship finally came to rest in a crater of twisted metal and burning debris. Through the cracked viewing window, Na could see Vorlog civilians running in panic from the crash site. They looked different from the soldiers she had seen in intelligence reports. These were families, children, ordinary people who had never held a weapon or attacked another world. The quantum bomb is still intact, Hannah reported, checking her instruments, but the drilling system is damaged. We cannot penetrate to the core from here. Anna studied the readouts on her screen. The bomb needed to reach the planet's molten center to create the chain reaction that would tear Corvith Prime apart, but their drilling equipment had been destroyed in the crash. There is another way, Tay said quietly. It's the city's geothermal power plant. It has direct access to the deep underground. We can get the bomb there. ... Double quotes. Na looked at the map he displayed on his screen. The power plant was 3 kilometers away, through the heart of the alien city. They would have to carry the quantum device through streets filled with Vorlac soldiers while their ship burned behind them. "How long do we have?" Na asked. "The bomb's containment field is failing," Hannah replied. 6 hours before it becomes unstable. If we do not activate it by then, it will explode on its own." 6 hours. Na calculated quickly in her head. They could reach the power plant in 2 hours if they moved fast. That would give them 4 hours to set up the device and escape. Except there was nowhere to escape to. Their ship was destroyed, and they were stranded on the enemy homeworld with no way to leave. "We need to move now," Na said, standing up from her pilot's chair. They loaded the quantum bomb onto a wheeled cart and prepared to leave their ship. As they opened the airlock, the sounds and smells of the alien city rushed in. Vorlock sirens wailed in the distance. The air tasted of metal and fear. Na took one last look around the cockpit of Sangram's Revenge. This ship had carried them across the galaxy and through impossible dangers. Now it would become their tomb. "For Sangram Village," Hannah said, shouldering her weapon. "For all the village's take," added, checking his computer tablet. "For men," Na whispered, thinking of her friend who had died to make this moment possible. They pushed the cart out into the alien city. Ken began their final march. The streets of Zorthok were chaos. Vorlock civilians fled in every direction, while military vehicles raced toward the crash site. Most of the aliens paid no attention to 3 small figures pushing a cart through the smoke and confusion. But some did notice. A group of Vorlock soldiers spotted them 6 blocks from the power plant. The aliens raised their weapons and shouted commands in their harsh language. Na did not understand the words, but their meaning was clear. Hannah responded with her own weapon, Allah, and the street exploded into combat. The demolitions expert had brought every explosive device she could carry, and she used them all. Alien soldiers vanished in flashes of fire and thunder, while Na and Tay continued pushing the bomb toward their destination. They reached the power plant, with Hannah covering their retreat. The massive building hummed with the energy of the planet's core, its towers reaching high into the red sky. Industrial pipes and cables snaked across the ground like metal rivers. "The access tunnel is here," Tay said, pointing to a maintenance shaft that led deep underground. They lowered the quantum bomb into the shaft, began the descent into the planet's depths. The tunnel was hot and filled with the sound of rushing steam. Strange alien machinery lined the walls, all of it designed to tap the incredible power that lay at Corvith Prime's heart at the bottom of the shaft. They found what they were looking for, a massive chamber carved from living rock, with pipes that extended directly into the planet's molten core. This was where the Vorlock drew the energy that powered their empire. It was also where that empire would end. Na connected the quantum bomb to the geothermal system and began the activation sequence. Her fingers moved automatically over the controls, following procedures she had practiced 1,000 times in her laboratory back on Earth. "How long until detonation?" Hannah asked, breathing heavily from their fight through the city. 30 minutes, Na replied. "Can we get far enough away?" Na looked around the underground chamber. The quantum explosion would be visible from orbit. No place on the planet's surface would be safe. "No," she said simply. They sat together in the hot, steaming chamber and waited for the end. Akuna thought about her village, about the people she had loved and lost. She wondered if Grandfather Dahl and Brother Wu would be proud of what she had accomplished, horrified by what she had become. "Do you think we are doing the right thing?" Hannah asked. "I think we are doing the necessary thing," Na replied. "Sometimes they are the same. Sometimes they are not." With 5 minutes left on the countdown, Na activated the ship's communication system one final time. Her message would reach Earth in 6 months, long after the light from Corveth Prime's destruction had faded. "This is Dr. Lena of Phoenix Squadron," she said into the transmitter. "For Songrim Village. For every world they burned. For every species they silenced. Let this light be seen across the stars, so they know that humanity remembers." Countdown reached 0. The quantum bomb detonated at the exact center of Corvith Prime's core, releasing energy that had been locked in matter since the birth of the universe. The explosion tore through rock and metal and flesh, consuming everything in its path. The planet's surface cracked like an eggshell as molten fire erupted from the depths. From space, the death of Corvith Prime looked like the birth of a new star. The light was so bright that it could be seen from 50 different star systems. On worlds across the galaxy, alien species looked up at their night skies and saw the flash that announced the end of the Vorlak Empire on Earth. 6 months later, astronomers detected the distant light and calculated its source. They realized that someone had destroyed the Vorlak homeworld, but they did not know who or how. Only Colonel Bei-Jin understood the truth when she read Na's final message. She stood in the empty laboratory where a young woman from a mountain village had learned to build Wepo.